Here we have the scapula. Now the scapula, sometimes you might have heard it referred to as the shoulder blade, but really the true term is scapula. Now the scapula itself, we're currently looking at an anterior view. This would be what is coming into close contact with your rib cage, because the scapula is on the posterior side of your shoulder area. So what we need to do is change orientation here now to the posterior side so you can see both perspectives. Now we're looking at a posterior view of the scapula. One of the big differentiating features is going to be the scapular spine, or the spine of the scapula. That's this line coming right down here. It's a ridge of bone that is protruding on the posterior surface. That is going to be the scapular spine or spine of the scapula. Now, coming off of the scapular spine is the acromion process. This part right here, the end of the scapular spine, this is going to be the acromion process. The acromion process is going to be more superior for the actual scapula. So if you were to touch the top of your shoulder, that bump of bone at the top of your shoulder, part of that is the acromion process. Now it's not the only thing because that's a joint there, but coming up towards the top is the actual acromion process. Now if you're thinking, hold on, acromion, I've heard that before. You've heard of acromion also with the clavicle. So that acromion process is going to be where the acromial extremity from the clavicle is going to articulate or form a joint. We then have another landmark referred to as the coracoid process. Watch the spelling here. This one, which is going to be anterior to the acromion process, that is the coracoid process. Now I'm going to change views so we can see a lateral view here. And by looking at the lateral view, we'll be able to see both these processes a little bit better. Now that we've changed to a lateral view, to orientate, this side over here is anterior, this side over here is posterior. The reason we know that is look right here, this ridge of bone. This is the scapular spine coming up to the acromion. Scapular spine is posterior. So we know this acromion, we know this right here is the coracoid process, and that's more anterior. And again, watch that spelling of coracoid because it's a C, not coronoid, we heard about back up in the skull. So we have acromion process, posterior and superior. We have the coracoid process, more anterior. We then have this flat, smooth portion right here. Again, it's the lateral side. This is the glenoid fossa. The glenoid fossa, or glenoid cavity, is what will articulate with the head of the humerus. So this is the glenoid fossa. Now again, this was a lateral view. If I go and rotate it to the anterior side, you'll notice we can still see the coracoid process up top, but the acromion went posterior, or back. If I rotate again to the posterior side now, we'll notice this is the spine coming up to the acromion process, glenoid fossa, coracoid process. All right, the next thing up is the superior angle, rotating back to an anterior view. You'll notice this right here is going to be the scapular notch going up to the superior angle here, the superior angle. So find that indent, that's the scapular notch or the suprascapular notch, that's on the anterior side. And it goes up to the scapular from the scapular notch up to the superior angle. From there, we can go into the subscapular fossa. Now, sub means below, scapula is scapula, so the subscapular fossa is going to be this shallow indent right here on the anterior surface. Now, it's not a very large indent, but there is a little bit of an indent here. If I kind of turn a little bit, you'll notice how there's a very shallow indent going in right there. That's the subscapular fossa. But switching and rotating over to the posterior side. So now we know this is posterior because we have the scapular spine right here. This indent just above, so you can see as we angle it a little bit, this indent is going to be the supraspinous fossa. So this entire area above or superior to the spine. So if I put it down on the table, you'll notice here's the spine. It's this area that's above it. It's where a muscle will sit. That's the supraspinous fossa. Supra above, so supraspinous above the spine. Then we go to the infraspinous fossa. Here is the spine. This area below it is the infraspinous fossa. Infra below, infraspinous below the spine. That's the infraspinous fossa. We then have three borders. We have the superior, medial, and lateral borders. All right, so let's put this into an anterior view. So if we have the anterior view right here, now the very bottom is kicked off. So what we're looking at here now is we know the glenoid fossa is on the lateral side. So if this is the lateral side, that means this one over here has to be the medial side. So this is the medial border. Now the medial border can also be known as the vertebral border because it's closer to the vertebrae. So if this is medial, this side is the medial border, the opposite side, right along here, is the lateral border. So find that glenoid fossa, come just below it, that's the lateral border. And then if this is lateral, this is medial, that leaves this edge on the top as the superior border. The top edge is the superior border. So three borders, all based on location. Medial border, or known as the vertebral border. The lateral border, sometimes known as the axillary border because that's the reference for the armpit. And then superior border. So the only thing left to figure out is which one is this, a right or a left scapula? Well, if we know that the glenoid fossa is lateral, we know that this is the anterior surface because if we rotate this over, the spine is posterior. So this one is looking to be a right scapula because this has to be posterior, this has to be lateral, and we know that the acromion process is superior. This is a right scapula. So if we flip it to the anterior side, flip it to the posterior side, this is a right scapula. Glenoid fossa goes out, and then you have the spine posterior, superior border up with the acromion up. So a right scapula.